Good morning. Today I want to talk to you about how good readers use questioning to help them understand the theme of a text. We use questioning in our everyday life um, every time we're encountered with some new information. Let me start by sharing something with you that I think is pretty special. I want to show you a rock. You probably have a lot of questions. Why does she have a rock? What makes that rock special? What's different about this particular rock? How long have I had it? What do I do with it? Why is it important to me? Where did it come from? All of these questions are things that you're probably thinking. Why would she bring a rock to a reading lesson? This rock is actually very special to me because my husband found it for me. He found it on our farm and he picked it up because he knew it would be the right size for my hand. And he called it my worry stone. So I got it at a time in my life where I was really worried about some of the things that my kids were going through. They were getting older and facing some adult problems that I couldn't jump in and fix. And he said, just hold this in your hand and rub your worries away. Let it out of your heart, let it out of your mind. And it just gives me a way to kind of let go of the things that are bothering me. So this is my worry stone. I actually do keep it in my pocket. And every time I'm getting really worried, I just kind of rub my worries away and it gets it off my heart and gets it out of my mind. But you can see that naturally every day we just ask ourselves questions when we're presented with new information. When you're reading, it's absolutely no different. It's really important that as you're going through the text, you're questioning yourself as a reader before you even jump into the text, using your text clues, using the titles. You're questioning yourself in the middle of the text, and you're questioning yourself even at the end of the story. And today we're going to be using those questioning techniques to help us find the theme of a story. I want to start by showing you a video that explains questioning a little bit more.
From EduCircles, and today as part of our Reading for Meaning series, we're going to look at a comprehension strategy called asking questions. Now, before we start the mini lesson, let's turn our minds on and think about active reading. Active reading means we think about the text as we read. Your brain should be getting a workout. It doesn't matter if you're great at reading or if you sometimes struggle at reading. At some point in life, we all will have to read something we just don't quite get right away. If we use strategies, we can get better at reading. Comprehension strategies help us figure out what is going on in a text. There are lots of different comprehension strategies, and today we're going to use a strategy called asking questions. Asking questions is a reading strategy we use before we read, while we read, and after we are done reading. Here are a few pro tips to help you use this comprehension strategy. Pro tip number 1, don't ask a question you already know the answer to. Otherwise, it's just too easy and we want your brain to work as you read. Pro tip number 2, try to answer your own question using evidence from the text. Look for clues in the text and then just guess about what the answer is. We don't have to be right at this point. We just have to think about ideas as we read. Pro tip number 3, ask lots of questions as you read and make sure to include higher order thinking questions. Higher order thinking involves things like analyzing or evaluating or creating new ideas. One way to ask higher order thinking questions would be to start your question with why or how and to use verbs like would or might. So, if you ask, how would this help the villagers? It might help you analyze and break down an idea into multiple parts and reasons. Or, if you ask the question, why would this even matter? Your answer might help you evaluate and come up with an opinion to judge the situation. You can decide whether you agree or disagree with the text. Or you might ask a question like, how might the hero defeat the villain? Then you're trying to create a new idea and solution using whatever you already know about the text. Pro tip number 4. Stop after every heading or paragraph and ask a question. If you don't get what you're reading, then you might want to stop after every sentence. If you're not struggling, then maybe don't stop as often, but you need to know that strong readers are constantly wondering or thinking about things as they read. Practice time. Here's a screenshot of the beginning of an article. Let's use the strategy asking questions before we read the entire article. We're going to stop after every heading or paragraph to ask a question to force us to think as we read. Look at the title of the article. Axe body spray stops a Florida school bus due to a hazardous materials incident. Let's try to ask some higher order thinking questions. For example, why would you have to stop if someone used body spray on a bus? This is a higher order thinking question because it uses the word why and it has the verb would. We have to infer the answer because it's not given to us directly in the part that we read. Remember to try to answer your own question. So, why would you have to stop if somebody used body spray on a bus? Well, maybe the driver stopped because somebody was hurt. Make sure to use evidence from the text to support your answers. Well, it does say right here that there are hazardous materials, so maybe there's something dangerous that caused some damage. Remember, don't ask a question you already know the answer to. For example, what was the spray? Well, we know. It's Axe body spray from the title. Another thing to know is that if you've already read the text, don't ask a question where you know the answer is given later on. So in this case, asking, how old were the students on the school bus? Well, if you already know in the next sentence it says that they were middle school students, that's probably not a great question to ask because you already know the answer. So let's recap about how to use the comprehension strategy called asking questions. Number 1, ask questions you don't already know the answer to. Number 2, no matter what question you ask, you have to guess at the answer based on something it says in the text. Number 3, ask lots of questions as you read and try to include higher order thinking questions using words like why or how. Number 4, today, try to stop after every heading or paragraph or section and ask a question. This forces us to think as we read, and that's what active reading is all about. Reading for meaning is just part of the many strategies and skills that we need when we read. And of course, reading is an important thing to be able to survive and thrive in today's 21st century world. It takes character to have grit and perseverance to keep going when things get tough. And one way to work on our character is to try to have a growth mindset, which means that we recognize that if we use specific strategies, those strategies can help us persevere and keep on going. Sometimes we struggle when we read. In that case, using some of these comprehension strategies will help. Sometimes we find reading easy. If reading the article today is easy, can we agree that at some point in life, you're going to come across an article which is harder to read and that you don't get? At that point, if you have solid strategies, you'll be able to persevere and figure out that tough article. So we work on the strategy today to practice for tomorrow.
I hope you found those strategies helpful. I will be listing those 4 tips on a separate anchor chart for you in the Google Classroom, so you will have that to refer back to. So I hope you enjoyed watching that video and it gave you a little bit more information on how we can use our questioning techniques to help us become better readers. One of the most important things readers can do, especially when they're reading fiction material, is try to figure out the theme or the message that the author is trying to give you. So today we're going to be asking you to read a story called The Golden Touch. Again, it is going to be in your Red Day book. So if you have that handy, you can read that story starting on page 76. We'll also scan and upload those pages. But before we send you off, I want to talk to you a little bit about what it means to find the theme. A theme is the story's central idea or a message from the author. So you have to ask yourself, what does the author want me to think or understand from the story? What messages jump out? Now, stories may also have more than one theme or message. Think about just like the Three Little Pigs. Okay, if you were just retelling the story, it's about the three pigs that build the three different houses that get blown down, all except for the brothers who was made of brick. So, what would be a possible theme? Hard work pays off because he put the work into building the brick house, or a family comes first because he took the other family members in to keep them safe. There's two possible themes to that story, and it's going to depend a lot on your background and your thoughts and your feelings. But as you're reading The Golden Touch, you're going to be questioning yourself through the story, beginning, middle, and end. And through those questions that you're asking yourself, you're going to come up with at least 2 or 3 possible themes from the short story. I hope that you enjoy it, and we can't wait to see your work.